In a cozy corner of a forest painted in shades of honey gold and sunset red, lived a little chipmunk named Chipper. He was very young, with soft, striped fur, a twitchy nose perfect for sniffing out secrets, and big, stuffable cheek pouches that were almost always full. Autumn had arrived with a gentle sigh, scattering colorful leaves like confetti across the forest floor. The air smelled crisp and clean, like apples and damp earth. It was a busy, exciting time, for this was Chipper's very first season of helping to gather food for the long, sleepy winter ahead. His mother, whose burrow was connected to his by a smooth, winding tunnel, had shown him which acorns were the plumpest and which hickory nuts had the sweetest meat. Her pantry was a marvel to behold. Rows of nuts were stacked as neatly as tiny logs, with berries dried and stored in little hollows in the wall. Everything was tidy, safe, and ready. Chipper wanted a pantry just like that, a pantry he could be proud of. He had his own little chamber, a small round room with earthy-smelling walls. He had worked hard gathering nuts, but his pantry didn't look like his mother's. Instead of neat stacks, all his acorns and nuts were pushed into one giant, wobbly mountain in the middle of the room. He would gather and gather, and then just spit them all out into the jumbled heap. He knew it wasn't right, but he was just too excited and impatient to do it any other way. One morning, a chilly wind whispered through the branches of the tall oak trees. It rustled the dry leaves and made a sound like a gentle shush. The wind tickled Chipper's ears and reminded him that the quiet, white days of winter were not far away. A little shiver of urgency ran down his stripy back. He had to gather more. He spent the entire morning scurrying and searching. The world was a wonderful crunch of leaves under his tiny paws. He found shiny brown chestnuts and smooth hickory nuts, stuffing them into his cheeks until he could barely see his feet. Under the sprawling roots of the oldest oak tree, he found a true treasure, a patch of the biggest, roundest acorns he had ever seen. They were perfect. He felt a swell of pride puff up his chest. With this haul, his pantry would surely be full enough for winter. His cheeks bulged, round and full like two little apples. He scurried back home, his heart thumping with excitement. He wiggled down the tunnel entrance to his burrow, past his mother's neat pantry, and arrived at the doorway to his own little room. He was so excited to add his magnificent new acorns to his store. He stood before his messy mountain of nuts and tried to spit his new acorns onto the very top, but the giant pile was too wobbly and too high. As the first of his new, heavy acorns landed, the entire mountain shifted. It trembled for a moment. Then with a soft, tumbling rush, it collapsed, up in the small doorway, blocking his way. Chipper stood there, his cheeks now empty, looking at his spilled treasure scattered all across the room. The task of fixing it all felt impossibly huge, bigger than any mountain he could climb. His whiskers drooped, and he let out a frustrated little chatter. "It's just too big of a mess," he squeaked to himself. "I'll never get it right." He sat down with a little sigh, his busy energy all gone. He felt small and discouraged. As he sat there in the quiet of his burrow, his gaze fell upon a single acorn. It had rolled away from the others and come to rest in a small curved nook in the dirt wall. It fit there perfectly, as if the little space was made just for it. Chipper stared at the single, snug acorn, and then a tiny idea began to spark in his mind, like a little firefly waking up in the twilight. What if he didn't need one giant messy pile? What if you could have many small, neat piles, just like that one perfect acorn in its nook? Slowly, he began to work. First, he cleared the nuts that were blocking the doorway, pushing them gently to one side. Then, he picked up a single acorn. He felt its smooth, round cap and its sturdy, pointed body. He carried it to the wall and placed it carefully next to the first one. Then he picked up another and another. One by one, he began to build a neat, low row all along the back wall. It was slow and quiet work. There was no more rushing, no more stuffing and spitting. There was only the gentle clink of one acorn being placed next to another. He found a rhythm in the task. Pick one up, carry it over, place it down. Pick one up, carry it over, place it down. The chaotic mess on the floor slowly began to shrink, while neat, orderly rows began to grow along the walls. He made a section for the big acorns, a section for the shiny chestnuts, and the little pile of hickory nuts in a corner. The work felt good. It was calming, like listening to a gentle rain patter on the leaves above. When the last nut was in its place, Chipper sat in the middle of his room and looked around. His pantry was beautiful. Neat rows of food lined the walls, safe and organized and ready for winter. A deep, warm feeling of pride glowed inside him. He did it. He had figured it out all by himself. His mother quietly peeked her head into his pantry. She didn't say a word, but she looked at his wonderful, tidy rows. Then she looked at him and gave a soft, approving chirp before leaving him to admire his work. That night, snuggled deep in his cozy bed of milkweed fluff and soft moss, Chipper could hear the chilly wind whistling outside, but he wasn't worried. He felt safe and warm and completely prepared. He knew that even when things seemed like a big, impossible mess, if you just start with one small thing, you can make everything right again. Feeling capable and secure, Chipper closed his eyes and drifted into a deep, peaceful sleep, dreaming of his perfect, well-stocked home.